Okay, Nama Om Vishnu Vidhaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachaline Nivasisha Sunyavahadi Vashtatar Satarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Katadha Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, welcome over John Navali. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Hare
So,
Krishna.
I just thought I'd begin today a little bit different. Anyone have any questions from yesterday's reading, or perhaps I can ask? Can you remember something from yesterday? What we touched upon yesterday? You can look
Mind.
at
Wasn't it about mind? Controlling of mind.
Yeah, the verses specifically were about that. And what did we establish? Some of the things we established. Who's the cause of creating enemies and friends?
The mind.
The mind, yeah. Because
Okay,
there
the
is
mind.
illusions and misconceptions. Because in reality, we're all parts and parcels of Krishna. So to conceive of someone as their enemy is due to false identification called false ego. Even Prabhupada would give the example of our Lord Jesus. I just lecture that Prabhupada gave verse 8, which we're starting today, that he was quoting Lord Jesus saying, "Forgive them, my Lord, for they know not what they do." We have examples as well as Haridas Thakur. Yeah. So what's some of the ways of dealing with the mind? We spoke about that. Dealing with the unruly mind. One of them was neglect. Remember that? Neglect mostly, especially for the unruly mind. We just neglect prompts. We neglect its pushing. We neglect its promptings. Yeah. And these impressions were stored within the mind, coming from previous lifetimes even. There's one quote in the Mahabharata that describes that the mind is like nothing that we stroke the mind, thinks about, contemplates, is ever forgotten by the mind. It's all there within the sponge called the mind. Yeah. So sometimes just like best to sit by a calm pool or pond, then you're going to see sometimes bubbles will come up. It's from the air of the algae or the greenery at the bottom of the pond. Bubbles come up. So it's like that. The impressions from previous lifetimes even just comes up within the mind. Hare Krishna, welcome, Mother Lavanga. We're just going over a little bit of what we did yesterday. A little review. So also, what's one of the ways that was mentioned that we can make the mind our friend?
We can talk to it.
We can talk to it. Yeah, we can.
That's what we said yesterday. You have a conversation with your mind and say, like, this is what's gonna happen.
Yeah, someone was quoting a senior devotee as giving that advice. Who was that? Was quoting, yeah. I think we brought up the point that sometimes we heard that devotees, sometimes they'll have a notepad when they're chanting japa and just diverge all the ramblings of the mind on the piece of paper. Okay, now you're satisfied, mind, now shut up.
Yeah, this is it.
Hear the holy name.
I made a note of it. Yes, we'll discuss it later and hope it doesn't come back.
Yeah. And I also mentioned about even a transcendentalist or a devotee who has relative control of the mind, we always have to have a humble disposition and be careful. And I gave the example. What example did I give?
We talked a lot about Jad Bharat, Rahugana.
We did that. They were, yeah, there's a different, yeah, Jabbar in, yeah.
Like his mind got upset because Palanquin was not doing well.
Jad Bharat. But remember, I gave the example, just like a wild animal. When it's captured, then the hunter will always keep
an eye on it.
Eye on it, or make sure it secures, because as soon as it gets a chance, it will bolt off. So I didn't, what I thought of after we finished the class, so I didn't quite complete that. So that basically means that even if we have, over the years, we have managed to somehow or another rein our mind, at least to relatively exposing itself or ourselves to Krishna conscious reading and Krishna conscious topics, we shouldn't think, oh, now it's okay. It's okay. I can go here. I can go there. I can do this. I can visit that. I can visit that. You know, I can step out a bit because it's okay. No. Yeah. No, it's a good, no. So we should be, yeah, we should be a little bit, we should be careful. Okay. So that's a little review of yesterday. Anything else which we discussed yesterday?
One more way to deal with that is, I mean, my not a very strong realization, but I do believe that if that mind is very stubborn, you can ask help from Krishna at that time.
Yeah,
Please
actually, that is the essence of everything, you could say. Actually, very good. That is, Dhananjay, you said it. Basically, that when we're at Teva's end and we feel completely helpless, then chant the holy name. Yeah, chant the holy name. And I just mentioning as well is that one of the ways of that's mentioned in one of the commentaries of the Charyas to make the mind a friend is to listen to the words and teachings of the great devotees. Yeah. Then it chastens the mind, you know. So therefore we hear from Prabhupada and we hear from our respective, or we hear from the devotees, you know. And it has a potency. It has quite a potency just by being in their proximity and hearing the sound vibration. It has its effect on the otherwise mad mind, you could say. The mad mind. All right. Let's continue then. We're on verse 8 today, beginning chapter 6, text 8. And let me share the screen. Did I press record? I did, yeah. Okay, let me press the button so I can find the share screen, green button. There you go. You have the Bhagavad Gita. If you don't have access to it yourself, it's there. So we can have someone to read text 8 and the translation.
Yeah, I can read.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yep.
Ginavijnana driptatma kutasto vichitendriya yukta iti uchite yogi samalostrama kanchana. Sorry, I'm reading from this. A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. The person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, gold, stones, or gold, as the same. Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Book knowledge without realization of the supreme truth is useless. This is stated as follows.
Oh, sorry.
Next
You
page.
can read this. Look, it's quite.
Yes, the non-slope. Go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. Atachi Krishna namati nabhavet gayam indriyai sevan mukhi jivado swayam eva spuriti yada. No one can understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Krishna through his materially contaminated senses. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord are the transcendental name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord revealed to him. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. This Bhagavad Gita is the science of Krishna consciousness. No one can become Krishna conscious simply by mundane scholarship. One must be fortunate enough to associate with a person who, in pure consciousness, a Krishna conscious person has realized knowledge by the grace of Krishna because he is satisfied with pure devotional service. By realized knowledge, one becomes perfect. By transcendental knowledge, one can remain steady in his convictions. But by mere academic knowledge, one can be easily deluded and confused by apparent contradictions. It is the realized soul who is actually self-controlled because he is surrendered to Krishna. He is transcendental because he has nothing to do with mundane scholarship. For him, mundane scholarship and mental speculation, which may be as good as gold to others, are of no greater value than pebbles or gold or stones.
Okay, thank you. So that is something very specific about Srila Prabhupada's purport here, that he chooses to speak on the subject of Gyan and Vigyan, or the process of receiving transcendental knowledge. Yeah? So therefore he quotes this well-known verse to devotees, Atashi Krishna Namadi Nabhivet Kriham Indriyai. Yeah? So can anyone give a precise definition of the difference between Gyan and Vigyan? It's a word that's used often. Well, these two words, Gyan, we're very familiar with. Vigyan, Prabhupada translates it in different terms. Prabhupada says it here in the purple, more or less. So the purple's dedicated to these two terms in the first two words, Gyan and Vigyan. It's interesting how Prabhupada doesn't speak much about seeing pebbles or stones as a gold as the same, except towards the end he compares mundane scholarship to be no more better than pebbles. So let's just go. Gyan we know, isn't it? What is Gyan?
Yeah, knowledge.
It's knowledge.
But Prabhupada is saying about book knowledge and the real knowledge, the experience.
Yeah, so then Vigyan is? You just
mundane
said...
knowledge.
No, Vigyan is not mundane knowledge.
No.
Vigyan means that knowledge which is known, or that knowledge which is revealed. Prabhupada sometimes calls it scientific. In the Bhagavatam, it describes it as scientific knowledge. Yeah. I just here, this is from Madhavacharya, for your interest. The word in Vigyan means transcendental knowledge, which denotes illumination and realization. Yeah. So that's why Prabhupada, he quotes this verse, Atashi Krishna Namadi. So this is the process by which Krishna becomes known, beyond just theoretical or book knowledge. Yep. So in other words, something. Anyone can finish the verse I'm going to quote, which backs this up. Tesam satata yuktanam.
Vajitam Pritipurvakam. Dadami Buddhiyogantam. Yenamam Abhyantite.
Yeah, well done. And the translation, you can give a paraphrase if you like.
Start that process. If you start it, can you start?
To those who constantly serve me with love, I give them the understanding by which they can come to me.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. Well done. Yeah. So, Prabhupada explaining this, he quotes this verse. Yeah. Tashi Krishna Namadi, which basically means to engage our senses in the service of the Lord, and then we then a sense become purified, and then we can go from book knowledge to Vigyan, to realized knowledge. So, I mean, even from a devotee perspective, we can read and study Bhagavad Gita. Of course, devotees, when we read Bhagavad Gita, we are reading with a sense of devotion. So therefore, Krishna being pleased will actually help us to understand. But then there's, for instance, there's descriptions of Krishna's beauty given, Krishna's form, qualities, and pastimes. Anyone had that experience where you're reading really beautiful poems and descriptions of Krishna's form, sometimes written by the acharyas, and it doesn't quite move you? You're just kind of reading it out of a sense of duty. It all sounds very wonderful, Yeah, sometimes I may experience that. But then at other time, when there's Vigyan, what is being read, or what it, because these great souls like the Goswamis, for instance, in their descriptions of Krishna, they're writing based on what they perceive within their heart through their pure devotional service. So they're writing beautiful descriptions of Krishna. Yeah. So at some stage in our Krishna consciousness, and we may even get Krishna may even bestow some grace and mercy upon us by giving us little insights into his actual beauty. Yeah. And then we can really appreciate what is being written because it's been revealed within the heart. But but we have to be, you see here in this verse, one has to become spiritually saturated. What does saturated mean? What saturated it means?
Completely saturated, completely like full. I mean, really fixed.
Full, saturated. It means all your senses, engaged in the Lord's service. It means 100%, like a saturated sponge, like saturated, So one is engaged in full devotional service. So that's why here, Madhavacharya means Vigyan, by which denotes illumination and realization. So when this becomes, so we can perhaps do we can look at our spiritual practice and are we saturated? We are trying to be saturated, Sometimes devotees can be too saturated and it's too much, so they have to become unsaturated. Got too much devotional service. I need to do less. You get the idea. And I was going to bring something else up there, but I just forgot. Right. Any questions or comments here? I've been going on a bit. So from yourselves, anything you want to bring out from here?
Sometimes you want to be saturated, but end of the day, you realize you haven't done what you wanted to do because other things come in.
Yeah, because it might be because of the mind, because of the free modes of material nature. But we can just sincerely try our best. I think as that nice comment that Dhananjaya Prabhu gave, we can sincerely try our best to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness, And sometimes we won't come up to the mark. Sometimes we will get distracted, But we should keep on trying to plug up the senses with Krishna conscious activities, And there will be a bit of a battle because the material world is meant to distract one from Krishna, at least in the conditioned state. Therefore, we have to be kind of quite attentive. Yeah.
I always tend to think of that example, when a woman she's married, but she's thinking of her paramour. It's okay, you are distracted, you are having to do other things, but your mind, oh, Krishna, this is not what I want to do, but you're always thinking of Krishna.
Yeah, I know. It's an interesting example that Prabhupada gives. Everyone heard that example that's given? That
I'm always thinking of that.
Because in one sense, that's not quite a, you could say, because we live quite a valued, principled life. And Prabhupada there, that example actually comes from the Charyas. And he gives the example, just like a woman who has a paramour.
Yes.
Someone else other than a husband is always thinking, even though she's engaged in the service or in association with her husband, she's always thinking of her lover. Interesting example, because you might say that wouldn't be the best example to give.
It's a really good example.
But yeah, it's a really graphic. It helps you get a picture. Yeah. So while we're engaged in our activities in this world, while we're visiting grandma, while we're queuing in a shop, while we're doing what we have to do in this world, we always let's try and think of Krishna. You know, think of our lover, Krishna. Yeah. So, what about the verse here? Interesting how Prabhupada here the verse. This is quite, and you could say so. This again, this is the manifestation, or this is the effect of someone who has control of the mind. Yeah, this is how they view the world. Because they get their satisfaction from the self, there's nothing in the world which attracts them. Yeah? So this is a nice description here. Such a person is situated in transcendence, in the self, and is thus self-controlled. They see everything, whether pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. So they may see gold, but then it can. So in other words, one is not attracted to the opulences of this world. One may come or wealth. They're not interested in material things because they know this is not the source of my happiness. The source of my contentment is my relationship with Krishna. Yeah. So you can imagine if a materialist person, if he sees gold, will he bypass it?
No.
No, because gold means money. Money means buy things. Buy things means sense gratification. Gold. Yeah. Just like, yeah, people, well, we know people are enamored by gold or opulence, but interesting, someone who is realized they have a gold which is within the heart. They have a wealth which is within their heart. So therefore, they are not, yeah, they're in the world, but they're not like the materialistic person. Yeah. Yeah. Person's dream of becoming wealthy, isn't it? Dream of owning the big house or the big, anyway, you get the idea. Even devotees, we may sometimes dream or hope for these things, but we just accept simple living, high thinking. Anyway, all right. Pebbles, what's the word for Kanchana is gold, okay? Sama, the equipoise, lustra, pebbles, ashma, stone, Kanchana. Tapcha Kanchana Gaurangi, there's that verse that glorifies Radharani for having a golden complexion. So this sees stones, gold as the same. So that's a bit of a test. The things of this world, if I have the things of this world, it's not going to necessarily equate becoming happy or becoming Krishna conscious. So if someone was to say to you, I often ask this question, would you like to win the lottery? What would you rather do? Win the lottery or chant really good rounds?
Chant really good rounds. I was thinking of that today. I was like in my flat, and I have people staying here, and I was thinking, then I thought about a big house, somebody, and you look at yourself from morning to evening. The day just goes doing devotional service and things. So whether you're in a little flat or you're in a big house,
Yeah. It's of no relevance, to us.
I was just meditating on that today, actually.
Yes, that's good. So if Krishna came to you and said, okay, I'll offer you to win a lottery, and it happens to be actually the big bowl lottery happens to be £10 million this week. I can offer you that, or I can offer you tomorrow to chant really good rounds.
Good rounds. Can't wait to chant good rounds.
By which you will perceive me. Yeah. Oh, Krishna, I just want to chant good. But sometimes, we may, oh yeah, but if I get a big place, then I'll be, I could don't make don't oh, 1 second.
Because in the good rounds, the lottery is included.
Yeah, I mean, that is the real lottery that we want.
Yeah.
That's what we want in this world. We want to win the lottery of perception of Krishna's name, the beauty of Krishna's name, fame, qualities, and pastimes. That's worth more than anything in this world. To get perception of the compassion and the wonderful qualities of Radharani, to get perception of the devotional sentiment that the gopis serve Radharani, etc. These are real treasures that nothing in this world can match. Yeah? And that's what we aspire for. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, people would say, "Oh, I get the Lakshmi, I'll use it in Krishna's service." But yet again, we talked about the mind. Would the mind let you do all that?
Yeah. And that aspiration has taken many of a transcendentalists away from the practice of spiritual life. Oh, I will let me for some perhaps not, but for many, or let me become fabulously rich. Prabhupada had that idea in his humility. He had the idea that let me become very wealthy. Let me use that money in the service of my spiritual master. Prabhupada. He says that out of humility. But Krishna had other plans, and he took everything away from him and made him a pauper. It's Krishna's grace. All right. And if we have a few devotees are joining now, or they're coming and going. It's not so many here today. I guess they're busy with Janmashtami prep. All right. Now, anything else from here? Otherwise, we'll read the next verse. Now, the next verse is interesting because it kind of raises the bar. It raises the bar of this equanimity. Okay, you've passed this test. Okay, what about the next one? Yeah. So this is also someone who's in control of the Atma, the self. Then they are equipoised, and that's described in the next verse, which is interesting because this verse doesn't have a purport. Interesting.
Okay.
Most verses, there are some verses in Bhagavad Gita that don't have purports, especially verses in the 11th or the 12th chapter. But interesting how Prabhupada didn't give a purport to this. But I found a quite a lengthy purport by Madhavacharya, so I might bring in some of that if you like. It gives an interesting. Anyway, let's get into it, shall we? So Dhananjaya, you can read text 9 and the translation.
Hare Krishna, yes.
Hare Krishna.
Suranmitraryudasena madhyastha dveshya bandhushu sadhushvapi cha papeshu sama buddhir vishishyate. A person is considered still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral meditators, the envious, friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with an equal mind.
Okay. So the bar's been raised here. So it's okay to be equally disposed to things and to stuff, but to be equally disposed to people who treat you in different ways, to see them all with an equal eye. Yes, and there is a Burijan. He gives from Surrender Unto Me, I read here. This verse describes the most advanced stages of the Yoga Rudra platform. It is difficult even for a great sage to give up family attachment. Yet Krishna recommends Samabuddhi, Yogi must be equal to family members, friends, and enemies. Yeah. Then there's a breakdown of these different words. Yeah. We tend to consider someone who appreciates us as a man of good discrimination, but view one who doesn't as envious. Surit means a well-wisher. Mitra, a benefactor. Yeah. I could go on with each word, but any immediate questions here or comments?
I was thinking we can go back to the verse before, all about mind's making all these decisions.
Oh, so you explained that it's the mind that makes these different distinctions.
Yes.
Yes, I see
Because
that.
if somebody's nice to you, somebody speaks nice, oh, you dress so nicely, you cook so nicely, then your senses are just, yeah, right, yeah, yeah. And you say, oh, isn't that nice? But you have to rethink, and I mean, you're not the doer, right? So
Yeah.
whatever comes out is the Krishna who's doing. And then whatever you cook, Krishna eats it. That's why everything is so tasty and nice. Prasad's always nice.
I think for those who didn't know, Mother Chandravali is one of our cook deities here. She's a very expert cook. She cooks wonderful Raj Bhogas.
Now you got to make sure your senses don't get into this.
Yes, yes. So this takes a bit more deeper introspection to look a bit deeper beyond the apparent, you know? Let's have a look at, for instance, for those who are envious or enemies, for example, to look beyond the way they are exchanging with you, and to go deeper and to appreciate them being a soul. Yeah. And to not take offense. I think I gave the example yesterday of that, the Avanti Brahmana, who was treated very, very badly, very, very offensively and badly. But he saw it all as the doings ultimately of destiny and ultimately of the Lord. And he didn't think badly of those who were being mean to him. So that's something, it's quite I'm sure we have all, to one degree or another, may have had experience of persons who give us a bad word or give us a bad turn. And then what do we think of them? It's normally the same back. It may be. Yeah. So this highlights, this is all the mind. It's quite an in-depth topic, isn't it? It's not, but Prabhupada will actually go on to explain, I think in the next verse, that all of these perfections, all of this equanimity does come through the practice of Krishna consciousness. Yeah, it comes. These are the qualities of a purified or a elevated mind or a elevated soul. Yeah. So we have to endeavor, we have to try. I mean, it may be difficult, but we should sincerely want to try to see here, to follow this verse, to see with equal vision, to see with an equal mind. Yeah. Now, I just see if I can pick up some things. Any other comments or questions, please feel free to share. Otherwise, I'll pick up a few points. There's a large commentary by Madhavacharya, but I won't go through the whole thing. I just highlighted a few points. So they alone understand that the consciousness residing in every living entity is the ultimate consciousness which is coming from the Supreme. So it's equally present in all beings. And he goes on. The embodied being is literally the manifestation of this consciousness, and the distinctiveness is due to propensity of one's internal potency. So it's quite, let's try and read that again. The embodied being is literally the manifestation of this consciousness, and the distinctiveness is due to the propensity of one's internal potency. And he mentions here Attributes such as compassion, magnanimity, and righteousness are bestowed by the grace of the Supreme Lord, as otherwise it is not possible to possess them. Now, the point which I found interesting is that he goes on to explain. Let me get lost. I got confused with my notes yesterday. I try not to do the same today. But that's the next verse. All right. Perhaps let me just read this part. The Brahma Purana states that the demigods in the heavenly planet, in the heavenly dimensions, belong to a special category and have special powers and attributes that are natural and eternal in order to regulate universal management throughout creation. The demons possess substantial defects which appear natural to them and are eternal as well. Human beings possess both attributes and defects, so we possess those of demigods and sometimes those of demons, which are also natural and eternal. So, a bit complicated, but as far as I understood, what Madhavacharya is helping us to understand is that for instance, if an enemy behaves to, say a demonic person behaves to us in such a way, that's their nature. That's which is coming ultimately from the universal order. So, that statement, we should hate the sin and not the sinner? So that, again, Lord Jesus Christ said that. I think one lady was about to be, another statement said as well, one lady was about to be stoned to death, as was the punishment in those days for, I think it was adultery or something like that. So he said, let he who is free of sin cast the first stone. So they all kind of shuffled away. Because none of them were free. So hate the sinner, not the sinner. Yeah. Or something else. Yeah. And if, let's read the verse again. A person considers still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral, mediators, the envious, friends and enemies, all with an equal mind. Okay.
Prabhu, I
Please,
have
yes,
one question. Hare
please.
Krishna.
Go ahead.
It might not, it is not pertaining to this verse, but I have a question, which is like, if I am endeavoring to achieve something materially, if I'm endeavoring to achieve something, is it recommended to have some amount of self-belief, or it is recommended to have 100% belief in Krishna only and not self-belief?
Do you remember that quote I brought up a couple of weeks ago? I'll just see if I can find it again. I think we addressed this a couple of weeks ago. I think you asked a similar question. See if I can find it quickly. Proverbs, under Proverbs. Okay, I don't know if this is relevant. The highest achievement, you remember this for those who are present? The highest achievement is on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Text 8, Text 37. The highest achievement of perfect civilization is to work with valor. Okay, so that answers your first point, Dhananjay. You should work with valor. So you should be self-determined to achieve your goals. Same as Arjuna. Should be fight with valor and fight with determination and be confident in that you can achieve it. So that's the first part. To work with valor. Valor, what does valor mean? Being not proud, or it means
Determination.
Determination. So that's what's being asked of us, and that's how we should do our duties. But then it says, but at the same time, depend completely on the Lord.
Yeah.
You got that? So both of it. Work with valor, but at the same time knowing that You're dependent on Krishna. Yeah. And Krishna tends
So
to...
just knowing,
Yeah, sorry.
so just knowing or keeping that particular fact in mind, that everything depends on Krishna, that definitely is the fact. Just keeping that in mind is fine, right? Or it is
Yeah.
like, I can depend on you, Lord, completely. I will do whatever comes to me, and I won't endeavor too much. Is it to achieve my goals? Because I know that you, ha- you know, you have a plan for me. So if it is going to come, it will come naturally. Is it right to think that way? I mean, recommended. Sorry, not right or wrong, but recommended.
Sorry to... Can you, because I was looking at my notes and you were speaking, I was inattentive. Can you just say the question again, but a little bit quicker?
Um,
Excuse me. I want to, because it's important for me to hear the question nicely before I can attempt to answer. Go on. Sorry for everyone who was listening attentively. I found the notes which I wanted to share, but go on. Go again, Dhananjay. Please excuse me. Ask again.
um, Prabhu, it just went out of my mind. It was like a difficult question for me.
Sorry.
I'm
I
not
think,
able to formulate that again.
Someone could help us.
yeah, he is basically saying, like, if you endeavor, you're endeavoring. And then you also have to depend on Krishna. Should you like just surrender to Krishna's will? Because Krishna has got his plans and he knows what's best for you.
Yeah. Now, there's a point of recognizing that. There's a point of
How do we?
there's a point of coming to that to that conclusion. And one of the points is, no matter what you do, how you try, do it this way, do it that way, do it backwards, this way, that way, this way, that way. Yeah, this you're trying. It doesn't happen. At some point, you have to conclude, oh, I have to go in another direction here. This is not happening. This must be Krishna's grace. And that's not always immediately understood. It takes introspection and also takes wisdom and experience, So that's why, for instance, those who have been around longer than us, our parents, our grandparents, they are wise. They have been through life. So that's why we should seek sometimes advice from elders. Oh, I'm doing this, I'm training, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But it's just not happening. Yeah. So that's called the experience of life. But there will be some things, there will be directions that we will go in that Krishna won't let us go in. Yeah. And often we have to learn from going in the wrong direction and then turning around and going back where we started from. Other times we may feel great empowerment and a great encouragement, and results are coming. It's not black and white. Sometimes we may be endeavoring for something which may not be good for us ultimately. It may not be good for our ultimate spiritual welfare. So therefore, Krishna will not allow us to achieve this certain thing or this certain placement, because it may distract us even further away from his lotus feet. So these things we should always through. That's why it's important to have a good, sound spiritual practice where we can tune in to the voice within through that wisdom which is coming from within the heart. And we can speak to those who have. If we don't have that, we speak to those who actually do. Or those who, you understand, Dhananjay?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Actually, I did listen to something in a class today as well. But, at the time when you're going through difficulty or whatever, and things are not going your way, they're not going like what you want, and you think, why is Krishna, why is this happening like this? Why is this happening like that? I mean, I've gone through that recently for a while now.
Mm.
And then when you, every now and then you get the glimpse of something. Why did this not happen? Then you see a bigger picture.
Yeah.
This is happening because, and you think, wow, look at Krishna, you're so merciful. Even now, going through another problem, you think, oh, well, why is this not happening? But there is a reason. And Krishna times it in such a nice way that that devotee at the moment cannot do what he wants to do anyway, because of the circumstances, family life, whatever. Krishna is how he's chosen at the right time to put that person in that situation. He's finishing his karma. He knows he cannot do all the things that he wants to do yet because of circumstances. So Krishna has got a bigger picture. And the time's right, everything will be nice.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Yeah, very good. Yeah, practical.
I've seen this. I've seen this in my life so much.
Yeah. So especially in retrospect, things become like oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, this is why this happened. That's why that happened. It's called poetic justice, sometimes it's described. Yeah, so the bottom line is to, have complete faith in Krishna, even if the situation we are in or someone we know is very difficult. Krishna is everyone's. Krishna is our well-wisher. Krishna only wishes good for us, But sometimes, sometimes you have to, you heard this saying, you have to be cruel to be kind. Krishna's not cruel. So yeah, did that further help you, Dhananjaya Prabhu? Some wisdom from
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Yes. Thank you.
From our elder, Mother Chandravali. She's a grandmother.
Thank you, Mother. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Now, I just want to share something here, which I found. Now, about treating everyone equally. Let's go to the next verse. It comes up there. Excuse me. Okay. Let someone read this. I'm so excited about sharing this particular notes here, but it's for this verse coming up. Got 11 minutes left. Someone could read this. Okay, go ahead, Danja.
Yes, Prabhu. Yogi yunjita satatam atmanam rahasi sthita ekaki yata chittatma nirashira parigraha. A transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind, and self in relationship with the Supreme. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Krishna is realized in different degrees as Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna consciousness means concisely to be always engaged in transcendental loving service of the Lord. But those who are attached to the impersonal Brahman or the localized supersoul are also partially Krishna conscious because the impersonal Brahman is the spiritual ray of Krishna and the supersoul is the all-pervading partial expansion of Krishna. Thus, the impersonalist and the meditator are also indirectly Krishna conscious. A directly Krishna conscious person is the topmost transcendentalist because such a devotee knows what is meant by Brahman and Paramatma. His knowledge of absolute truth is perfect, whereas the impersonalist and the meditative yogi are imperfectly Krishna conscious. Nevertheless, all of these are instructed herewith to be constantly engaged in their particular pursuits so that they may come to the highest perfection sooner or later. The first business of a transcendentalist is to keep the mind always on Krishna. One should always think of Krishna and not forget him even for a moment. Concentration of the mind on the Supreme is called samadhi or trance. In order to concentrate the mind, one should always remain in seclusion and avoid disturbance by external objects. He should be very careful to accept favorable and reject unfavorable conditions that affect his realization. And in perfect determination, he should not hanker after unnecessary material things that entangle him by feelings of possessiveness. All these perfections and precautions are perfectly executed when one is directly in Krishna consciousness. Because direct Krishna consciousness means self abnegation, wherein there is very little chance of material possessiveness. Srila Rupa Goswami characterizes Krishna consciousness in this way. Anasaktasya vishaya vishayan yathartham upayunjata nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyamuchyate prapachan prapanchikataya buddhya hari sambandhi vastuna mumukshubhi parityago vairagyam falagu kathyate. When one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. On the other hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna is not as complete in his renunciation. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.225 to 255 to 56. A Krishna conscious person well knows that everything belongs to Krishna and thus he is always free from feelings of possession. As such, he has no hankering for anything on his own personal account. He knows how to accept things in favor of Krishna consciousness and how to reject things unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. He is always aloof from material things because he is always transcendental and he is always alone, having nothing to do with persons not in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a person in Krishna consciousness is the perfect yogi.
Okay, thank you. That's a longer
Right.
paragraph than I thought. Hare Krishna. So any immediate questions or comments from here? Hopefully we're familiar with the concept of Brahman, Paramatma. I think most of us here are. Yes, Brahman, Paramatma, and then Bhagavan. How about living alone in a secluded place? Now, this is 6th chapter. So the next verse after this is going to be explaining about Astanga Yoga, the actual detailed practices of Astanga Yoga. And it is required, it is a principle that one does live alone, literally, with no relationship to family, etc. That's the path of the Gyanis. But I was reading a lecture today, just before we opened up, Prabhupada speaking on these verses here. He speaks on these verses from 7 to 12. So how does it apply living alone for a devotee?
No, we've got a few examples where wasn't it in Mayapur or somewhere where a couple of devotees wanted to go out and just live in a tree or something and just chant. Till we can control our mind and our senses, we cannot live on our own. We need association of devotees.
Yeah, basically it means for us that Prabhupada says quite directly that living alone means to live in the association of devotees.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. Live in association of devotees. We try as much as possible to avoid association with those who do not share the same principles, the same outlook in life, the same virtues. Yeah. So we need to protect our bhakti. Yeah. And then
Prabhu, also I think,
please, yeah.
Sorry, Prabhu.
Carry on.
Sorry to that. I also think living alone is the time that we spend with ourselves when we chant or when we are doing service to Krishna is the time that we are spending with ourselves,
Yeah, good
rather
looking
than,
like that.
and also people, or even me, I would say, we tend to take the meaning to the extreme. So when over here it is said that one should live alone in a secluded place, the first thought that comes to my mind is live alone. So it's like live always alone, um, that's how I was trying to perceive it. But living alone is not like we said, living in association with devotees or with the people who share the
Yeah.
same interest is required.
Yeah, that's how Prabhupada gives his commentary upon this verse. Yep. That's why, just as I said, with this particular chapter, Prabhupada in his purpose keeps us very much on track and gives a Krishna conscious perspective of these principles of Astanga. And even in this purport, he describes that actually, he describes that here, all these perfections which we just heard about are perfectly executed when one is directly in Krishna consciousness. And then he quotes, anyway, we've only got a few minutes. There's a lot here. This purport was longer than I thought it was. I should have checked before. And then we're familiar with this verse. This is from Rupa Goswami. I'll put it here on the screen. So we engage, or we live in the world, and we engage the things in the world in Krishna's service. Yeah. And it's meant that's a higher principle of renunciation rather than living literally alone as an Astangi yogi might do. Yeah. So Prabhupada explains that everything belongs to Krishna. But we should also be, at the same time, we should be careful that we don't try to engage things in Krishna's service which is beyond their ability, where we may become entangled. Yeah. Just like, I don't know if, anyway, I've started it, so I have to give the example. There's one person who came to visit our temple, and he came from Mayapur, and he was flyed up to distribute books, and he was determined to distribute books in all the brothels in Soho, because our temple is in at the edge of the red light district in central London. Thank God it's at the edge. It's not in the middle, but still, it's only a stone throw away. So he was inspired to go to all the prostitutes and distribute books. So treaded on very, not perhaps not the best advice for a sadhaka. Yeah. Anyway, going off the point a bit. So Krishna conscious person well knows that everything belongs to Krishna. So we feelings free from feelings of personal possession. So therefore, he's not hankering for anything. It's all Krishna, 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 isn't it? Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Become conscious of Krishna, then all these wonderful qualities manifest, which yogis are trying strenuously to achieve through their meditation and austerities. But simply by the original verse, Atasi Krishna Namadi, by engaging ourselves in Krishna's service, a devotee is endowed with all these qualities of a Satmadashi, of a topmost yogi. And at the end of this chapter, Krishna will describe the topmost yogi is actually a devotee. Okay. Now, I have some notes which I was going to share, but it was in relationship to the last verse, but I'll bring it up in the next get together. Yeah. So let's just stop there. Thank you for kind attention, and I wish everyone a wonderful Janmashtami tomorrow. In whichever way you're going to honor Janmashtami, it may be very simple, it may be very elaborate, but try and it's a very special day tomorrow. Let's kind of pray to the Lord and make most of it. Try and spend our day. Let's try and organize a day as much as possible, going from one devotional engagement to another. Okay, read for an hour, chant 16 rounds, read pastimes for another hour, chant another 4 rounds, chant another 16 rounds, whatever it may be. Look in the temple, be absorbed in service, Anyway, Hare Krishna. So thank you all for joining us, and let's get together next Tuesday, for text 11, 611. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bo. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Gaura Premanande, Hare